Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi Allen, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Tree Rescuer program, our Park Authority Tree Rescuer program. Thank you very much for coming. Just a brief outline of what I'm going to be talking about. First, we're going to kind of go over a quick history of invasives and trees at risk on our parklands. A brief overview of how to become a Park Authority Tree Rescuer. Um, Tips on organizing as a group. Um, and we have Whitney Redding with us from Homes Run, the watershed group there, Friends of Homes Run. And she's going to give us a little bit of information on how she got her group up and running. And then the last couple of slides will just be other ways to help trees and our fight against invasive plants in this area. Why are trees at risk in our parkland? For starters, the Park Authority owns over 23.5 thousand acres of land, and unfortunately doesn't receive a huge amount of money from the county's general funding, including taxes. The Natural Resource Department manages almost all of this natural land with minimal general fundings, and then added to that, they can get donations, and a lot of the money comes from grants. That's a lot to do with little funding. We took a survey of about 712 acres of the Fairfax County Park Authority parkland and found that close to 8.9 thousand trees were at risk. And if you take that and calculate it out to 23,000 acres, you get to almost a quarter million of trees at risk in our parklands. And that's the problem that we're facing today. Many of these trees will have a hard time surviving for the next 5 to 10 years if we don't try to help them. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is our wonderful volunteers that we have had join this program so far. The Park Authority authorized a volunteer-led, volunteer-run, incredibly low budget program that allows volunteers, allows you, if you decide to join up for it, work independently or with other trained volunteers to rescue trees on Fairfax County parkland. It requires about a 30 to 60 minute training online and a 1 to 2 hour in-person training. These volunteers that we have now, we have about 54 volunteers that are working in 42 parks, and they have rescued over 4,000 trees. 2,000 of those have been rescued this year alone. And not only have we gotten that many trees rescued, many people actually haven't sent in their tree count, so it could be much higher. And many people actually go back and continue to keep those trees safe. And while I know that 4,000 trees doesn't seem like a lot when you're looking at a 250,000 trees that are at risk, when I look at it from the standpoint of every tree saved, we provide food for insects and birds. We increase the habitat value of the land. We increase the regenerative capability of the forest that the tree is in, and we help decrease erosion, provide cleaner streams, and absorb more carbon. 4,000 trees is about equivalent to 40 acres of forest. And I don't think that's a very trivial thing. And I think with more people involved, we can do more to help give our trees some time while we try to solve the invasive plant problem. So our goal is to have healthier trees that can produce seedlings, healthy seedlings that stay healthy to grow into small saplings, larger saplings, and then can help to restore the canopy as our adult trees die. And that's where you guys come in. So how do you become a tree rescuer if you desire to do this? There are 6 easy steps. You sign up for the opportunity, you go through the modules, You study your rules and regulations, and you take the quiz. You learn about the invasive and native vines. Many of you, I believe, already know some of these, if not all of them. You take the vine quiz, and then we do an in-person training. I'm going to go through some of the key points of these and I'll also over some of the problems we've had, so you guys will know these ahead of time, and it'll help facilitate things in the future for you. Signing up for the opportunity. This is actually important whether you are a volunteer already for the Park Authority or not. This gives you the chance to report your hours specifically for doing the tree rescues. And you just click on the blue button to the left to sign up. And we send you these links. Please know that all the resources and the links and all that stuff are sent to you, so you have all that. And the volunteer modules, there are two different modules. One is training for all Park Authority volunteers, and it includes 4 sections and then a sign-off sheet. And then we also have the outdoor safety module, which has just 1 section and then a sign-off sheet. When you get done with each module, you check the sections that you've done. So this is just the volunteer section with the 4 volunteer module, just the general volunteer module with the 4 sections, and you would sign it and then send it to us. The outdoor safety training includes 2 parts that you're not doing: the emergency response plan and the equipment use and certificate. Doesn't matter to me if you go ahead and sign for all of them, but if you wanted to mark this off, you can do that as well. For our first quiz, there's a really simple list of rules and regulations that we follow with this program. You must work independently or with people who have gone through the program. You may not have untrained volunteers working with you. You may only clip invasive non-native vines from trees. The only time that you are allowed to clip a native vine is when there is greenbrier and it's obstructing you from being able to go in and take care of an invasive vine. You may not pull vines from the ground. This has to do with the fact that we don't have the resources to handle any problems that might come with erosions or increasing seed load to the surface of invasive plants. Do not pull vines down from the trees. This can hurt the trees and can injure you as well. And then we ask that you log your hours. And again, we'll give you that information on how to do that. Margaret, or Whitney, is there an easier way for me to move my slides?
It's working what you're doing.
Okay, as long as it's not annoying people.
Yeah.
So the first quiz is, we just call it the Tree Rescuer Survey. It's a list of 9 questions, 8 or 9 questions, just about those rules and regulations. When you're done with it, you would get a screen that comes up with your score, and you would take a screenshot and then send that to us. The second quiz is a little bit more in depth. It's about the invasive and native vines in the area. And we actually recommend that you take a little bit of time to look at some of our resources. And these are resources that have been put out by sort of our sister program, by Plant Nova Trees, the community-wide education program. And they've created this fantastic set of resources, which I'm going to show you some of those right now. They're great to give anybody who wants to learn about these invasive and native vines. We give you this webpage. It talks about control methods. It talks about native vines that are here as well as the invasive vines. We have what are called the air tables. So in this one, you can click over the wisteria here, and it'll give you a variety of pictures of wisteria. And same way with kudzu, myelimited, etc. There are a series of webinars about the invasive vines that you can go through. And there's even a handy dandy printout version that you can take out into the field with you, if that would be of help. So after kind of looking through all of this stuff, we have the Tree Rescuer Invasive Vine Quiz, and this is a series of 18 questions. Please know this is an open book quiz. We want to see not only that you've got an idea of the invasive vines, but more importantly, that you can use your resources. So please do not be afraid to use some of those resources that I just mentioned and that we would send to you so that you can pass this quiz. We want to be able to make sure that you are able to use your resources out in the field because not everybody experiences the same vines. And it's quite common as I work with invasive plants and I'm a volunteer with the Park Authority, and it's not uncommon for me to reach out to my friends and coworkers or associates to ask them questions on native and invasive plants that I've never experienced. So we want just to know that you're able to use your resources to find things out and pass the quiz. Also, do know that you can take this quiz multiple times. Does not matter. The only quiz result that I'm going to see is the one that you send to me as a screenshot. And the other little secret is that you can go back and change your answers, which can be helpful if you've realized you've made a mistake, that you answered something incorrectly before and you want to go back and change the answers. To take a screenshot of this can be a little bit tricky. And I fell prey to this. When you get done, it says to leave your name and email address and phone number. Do not worry about that. We used to collect the scores. We don't do that anymore. We don't get the results fast enough. So just circle or click onto next. It'll take you to another screen. And then you have to click done. And it'll get you to the final screen, which gives you your score. Do a screenshot of that and send that to us. After you're done with that, you're set for your in-person training. And this is the best part, I think, of all the work that we do, is getting the chance to spend time with somebody else and share knowledge. And I really enjoy working with other people and learning from other people, especially native plant people. So this has to be done with somebody that's an approved trainer. A lot of times that is one of the invasive management area leaders that we have set aside to help with this training. There are a few other people that are set aside as in-person trainers. They're going to go over the area with you with invasives and native vines. Sometimes there'll be several different places to go to look at all of the invasive and native vines that are possible in a park. The idea is to also go over cutting and removal procedures and discuss rules and regulations. We can do this as part of the invasive management area work days, but only by approval, because only certain leaders have said, yes, they're okay with that. And I need to be able to contact those leaders before you have your workday so that they know you're coming and they are prepared to spend a little bit of time with you and make sure that everything's okay. For most of the time, when you go to this workday or you have a site visit, I will be sending you a form like this, and you will have the site leader sign it. There are a few of our trainers, two specifically that are with us today, that we do not have to do that. They trained so many people, it can be a little bit overwhelming after a while. Also, if we're doing a group training, then we typically do not have the person that's running the training sign everybody's form. We just have them fill out a list of the volunteers that came to the event, the training event. And here are just a few of the pictures of people clipping vines and cutting vines. I know that some people had put in questions along the lines of how to address vines or cut vines safely from a tree. We can answer some of those questions at the end, but there's also some really good resources on the Plant Neva Trees website that I gave recently, or just gave previously, on how to remove these safely from trees. So I'll be happy to go over some of those questions at the end if people want to bring those up. Sorry. And then just so for people who are interested in working on other property and doing other work, I just wanted to go over a quick idea of what we look at with tools. We have a few small basic tools that we use, a small lopper, a folding saw we usually recommend. It can be, use one with a replacement blade, and then either a mini crowbar like this or an old screwdriver. And we highly recommend that you have gloves that have gauntlets, because when you have to reach in to thorn bushes, the gauntlets can help protect you. And also for those that are sensitive to poison ivy, this is very helpful in protecting you from the oils that can come from the plant. Some of the more specialized tools that I've gotten used to using in certain cases, obviously small clippers are helpful if you have small vines. The reason I like to use this when I have small vines is because you're opening and closing your hands so much, or if you're using small loppers and you're using it, these open automatically. It's a little less work for me. Also, the loppers, if you have small loppers, it's not a big deal, but these can just fit right into my pocket and I can carry them around. And since I'm really good at losing tools, it's helpful to have them just go into my pocket. The scythe is really specifically for people who are cutting back small regrowth on porcelain berry. It can also be helpful for a lot of the other vines that grow back. I've used it for mile a minute, oriental bittersweet, even English ivy. But the porcelain berry can frequently grow with these rapid small shoots that come up. And if you're trying to clip those, it gets very, very tiring on your hand. And instead, you can go back every few weeks and just use a scythe and fly through it. You just have to be careful of yourself because it is sharp. A straight blade saw, which I think is really helpful when you have English ivy and winter creeper on trees, and you have some of these really big trees that have thick vines on them. At least when I've worked with other volunteers, I have less chance that the tree gets cut because it's a straight blade. So the other blades sometimes are slightly curved and they can get into the tree. The amount of cutting is probably not going to significantly hurt the tree compared to how much you're saving it by taking away and killing the English ivy and winter creeper. So working with groups. I'm going to have Whitney Redding talk in just a little bit, but why are we interested in having you guys, or bringing up the idea of working with groups? We've had a couple of new additions to our team of volunteers that have been associated with groups, and it's been fantastic to be able to have 7 or 8 members that are now trained in a specific park and that can go over and help out in that park. And it is very rewarding to see that on paper. And then I think it's very rewarding for the volunteers themselves. Working in groups provides socialization. We know that there are several volunteers in our group or in our team that have expressed this to us, that they prefer to work with small groups of people. There's a safety, security, increases motivation. And when you're out there working with a few people and you get done, there looks like there's a whole lot that's been done. It's really great increased outcome. What we'd like to do is to encourage people, if they're interested in getting some friends together that want to work together. All people have to get trained to become tree rescuers, but then once everybody is trained, then you can all go out and work together as your schedule allows. So we want to help streamline that process, provide you with resources to give to your group members, allow everyone to go through in-person training at the same time, if that is helpful. Try to help coordinate the process to get as many volunteers as possible, and help with advertisement to obtain volunteers. If you're interested in looking into resources, there are some resources by the Plant Nova Trees about organizing, getting information out, who to reach out to where to put your information out, next door, other social media groups, and you might find some help with that. We also had a webinar that brought in two people who had organized their community around helping to improve their HOA, I believe it was, area. And so they did a nice little talk. So you can look at any of those resources. And with that, I'm going to let Whitney Redding talk a little bit about the Friends of Homes Run and how she got that up and running and organized a fairly significant group of people who now go out and rescue trees.
Yeah, thank you so much. Holmes Run is the watershed that is close. It goes through Bailey's Crossroads. It goes basically from around Dunloring down through Lake Barcroft, Bailey's Crossroads, down to the west end of Alexandria before it joins Backlick Run, becoming Cameron Run in the Ben Brenman Park in the city of Alexandria. And then from there, it goes into the Potomac at around Wilson Bridge. Do you want to go to the next slide, please?
Yes. I'm sorry, my computer makes a
There
slide.
you go. So I'm going to say two different comments tonight. One is about if you are a group, and the other is if you are an individual looking to get into a group. So this is my little cheat sheet of how we as Friends of Homes Run leveraged the tree rescue program so that we could pursue our mission in a much more intelligent way. Our goal in stewardship, when it comes to stewardship, is to take strategic actions in all the parks and pocket parks in the Stream Valley and the VDOT right away and wherever we can get, some interest up and down our watershed. It's great to take a watershed approach because, as you can imagine, the trees, when they shade the stream, that allows life to live there. So we have our ulterior motives for wanting to save the trees. So anyway, I wanted to point out that when I did that, I can certainly go into more detail if you are interested in joining that kind of endeavoring into that. Say you have, for example, an HOA, or you are part of a friends group, like a friend of blank park or a friend of a watershed. I found that it has been incredibly helpful to become somebody who can work with volunteers in a bigger scale. Bring them to the sites and the parks up and down our watershed, and not only do they get their training, their in-person training with me as a newly minted tree rescuer who's gone through the program, but and we get all that great socialization that she was mentioning, Heidi was mentioning, but also it's kind of like we get more done. We just get more done. And over, I'll do this one week after another during the cold season. And in fact, a lot of the best tree vine removal happens during the cold season when you can't help but notice the evergreen, English ivy is still on the trees, and it's easier to get at it because the vegetation's died back. Plus the porcelain berry, the leaves, all of the different leaves on the non-evergreens have died back, so it's easier to get at them. So this is just a little storyboard, if you will, of all the different ways we got the word out. We went to our watershed. Of course, there's a bunch of different neighborhoods, and we've spoken at neighborhoods, we've spoken at churches. Yesterday I did a tree rescue training on a church grounds in our watershed at St. Philip Church. So do talk to me after this. If you want to reach out to me, I'll put my email in the chat. If you are thinking of leveraging the tree rescuers to help your group. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is how you can get into it more as an individual. And I can't remember where the next slide is, but if we turn to it, that'll help. Yay, there we go. So this, by the way, is after the first year. For the most part, most of these pictures are from the first year of us doing our thing. And here's where I'm going to talk to you about if you're an individual. So if you look at your top left, the two women on the tree, that's at Woodley Pool. So I was going around to the yard work days and pools. And so people who were in pools, community pools, could learn how to do it. You could organize one for your pool. That's private land. And most of these pools, these community pools in the older areas are right on a stream. It's because back in the 50s, it was considered non-buildable land. So what they do, they built pools and then let all the water out when it was time. Your next picture to the right is some newly minted, that's Devin Farr and Sam, last name I forget, Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got newly minted. Those are their certificates. We went to a pocket park that gets no attention, and that was super helpful to the park authority as well. The next one over is where we're talking about what the vines look like. And you'll see on the ground there are some examples of vines that people can clip for themselves and use it as a reference when you're going through and doing your own work, whether you're with a group or on your own. And then on the very lower, you see on your lower left, yep, that's Justice Park has an IMA site. And I think if you're an IMA leader, it's a super helpful thing to have tree rescuers come because you're busy taking care of everything else. Tree rescuers could come and take care of the trees for you. But also if you're an individual who's looking to get more experience and you've been to the training, but you kind of, you're not sure you're looking at the right thing because the season has changed and so has the plant. So going to IMA sites is a great way to keep up your skills. The one in the bottom middle, that is a picture of, the Volunteer Fairfax website. You can sign up and say, I want, X number of volunteers at such and such a park on such and such a date. And if you are a volunteer trainer like myself, not if you are just a new trainee, but if you're a volunteer trainer or an IMA leader, that's how you can get more people to your site. If you are interested in, and you are just a new trainee and you've picked a park and you want to get more love to that park, consider, if it's, for example, in the Holmes Run watershed, a group like mine can do that for you, and we can all go to that park and help you on that day. I've done that at Parklawn Park with with a master naturalist who was not trained to train other tree rescuers, but I was. So I went and helped her and brought some more people who were getting training. So that's what I wanted to just mention. The last thing I want to just say, just as a general piece of advice, if you are an individual and are getting into this, go to more than one training. Have the person who is your in-person practicum person trainer. It might be me, it might be Heidi, it might be someone else. Um, come to your site. Say you picked a park near you, and then you both together can review that site and come up with a game plan for what you can tackle, and you'll feel more confident. The last thing I'll mention is that when you're learning vines, it can get a little overwhelming at first because you're like, oh my gosh, porcelain berry goes from polka dot bark to like snake skin in like a period of a year. And you're like, I don't know, what am I looking at? I find that it's super helpful if you know what's in your park that's positive. If you learn the maybe 4 or 5 good guy vines and you've learned everything you can about that, then by process of elimination, you will figure out pretty darn quick the behavior and the types of things that the bad guy vines do. And you don't have to know if is this bittersweet or is it porcelain berry? You just know what it isn't. And that is super helpful. That's it.
Yeah, and a few more comments to what Whitney was saying in regards to being concerned that you're might be doing something you don't know what this vine is or whatever. When you go and work with the vines, sometimes it's really good just to learn one or two. So you find I've worked with a couple of volunteers who are really comfortable now with honeysuckle and rose. And we're really good with that. And that's what they work on right now. And eventually they'll move on from there. But they're not quite ready to go to the next vine. And that's perfectly okay. I mean, I did stiltgrass for a year before I went on to anything else. That's what my mentor had me do, was in the fall. How do you do stiltgrass? Okay. I think I did garlic mustard in the spring, and that was about it for about the first year. Really trying to learn too many things when you're out in the woods, and learning these vines can sometimes be overwhelming. And so if you've not had experience with the vines and you're doing your site visit or your IMA visit, say, great, can you teach me the natives? And then can you just teach me one or two of these bad guys? And let me get those down. And then I'll come back when I feel really comfortable about those and learn about a few more. It's okay. That's what we do with IMA sites as well, is we learn about just a few and then we move on and learn about more. So anything else, Whitney?
I think that was the only slide I had, right?
Yep.
I think that was it. Yep, I'm done.
Okay. For those of you that may find that being out there and cutting the vines from parks, trees in the parks might be a little bit beyond what you want to do, or something else tickles your brain a little bit better, I wanted to give you a couple of other places where people are working to try to solve this invasive problem. The Fairfax Invasive Remove Alliance is trying to pull together HOAs in a way to convince our legislators that this is a problem that we all want to have addressed, and we need you to make that happen. Early Detection Rapid Response is an organization that I work with that is in parks, but what we get to do is we get to wander through off trail or on trail all the parks, all 23,000 acres if we're sent there, wherever we are sent, to look for specific plants, mark them on a map, say how big the problem is, and leave. Sometimes we remove, but most of the time we're just marking it. We're the eyes for the park authority on very specific types of plants that they are really trying hard to eradicate before they become a problem. We have the community program, the Educate Your Neighbors, a community outreach program to help your neighbors realize that there are trees at risk in their property. And if you want to be rescuing trees, and I'm sorry, there is a bit of a typo there, but rescuing trees throughout the county, but it's not necessarily exactly on Fairfax County Park Authority land. This resource is a good place to go, where it lists tons of other property types, from other parkland to VDOT to a variety of other places that you can do this work. I also wanted to list that there are definitely ways to donate to this. The Park Authority Natural Resource is very happy to get some donations. It's kind of a little cumbersome to do this. You go to the Park Foundation, then you have to scroll away all the way down to the bottom of the page. They have the Enrich the Environment donation group. Plant Nova Trees, as I said, our sort of sister program. They do take donations. And then I wanted to mention a couple of things about things that are not due to invasives. The Fairfax Tree Stewards, which are the people that are very much in the nit and gritty of making sure we try to keep trees alive in Fairfax County, and take care of our trees. And then there are many native plant programs, and there are many other smaller tree programs like McLean Trees and other small, or towns and cities that do programs to promote healthy trees and healthy native plants. And unfortunately, trying to list all of those was a little bit above and beyond what I could do for this presentation. But there's lots and lots of things to do, and you can always email us and ask, how could I get involved in this way, if going out and flipping the vines is not something you're feeling is tickling your brain the right way, making you feeling happy. That's our point, is to volunteer and be happy and feel good about what you're doing. And that is, I believe, all that I have. Oh, questions.
Okay, well, the first question was, how do you tell if it's Fairfax County Park Authority land? And we answered that actually in the chat. There is the Fairfax County Park Authority Park Locator, although I must say that only locates certain, it doesn't locate all the street and valley parks. And then I suggested using a realtor map called Regrid, where you click on the property and it'll tell you who owns it.
Yeah, the realtor map worked good.
Yeah, that's quite handy. There's
Yeah, does the realtor map the one that has the app on the phone?
yes, there's a, yeah, you can get an app on the phone. You know, people, you can also use Fairfax County Jade maps, but I find them clunky to use, slow to load. And then next question was, where are there groups already?
Where are there groups for the
Tree rescuers.
Yes. So we have obviously the Homes Run group. We have one that's associated with Turkey Cock Stream Valley. And that's also Bryn Mawr Park. And then we have one that got started at Hidden Ponds Nature Center, which is also going to flow a bit into Pohick Stream Valley area as well. So those are our three big areas that we've gotten started up. We're looking into hopefully getting one at South Run Rec Center would be my next big goal to do that one. And then I would love to get a lot of these stream valley areas like the Accotink, Friends of Accotink, and get that stream valley. Also working with tree rescuers. I'd like to get Huntley Meadows up and running with tree rescuers and Fairfax Park. Is that what it is? The one I'm rested? Oh, Lake Fairfax. So there's a variety of other places we haven't. We do have ones like Haycock Longfellow, where we actually have like 3 or 4 tree rescuers, but they didn't come in as a group. So
we got a couple of additions in the chat here. Christina Watts is would like to start a group at Hidden Oaks Nature Center. And
fantastic.
Whitney says there's a group at the White Horticultural Gardens. And then the next question was, since we can't pull out the roots, isn't this just a temporary measure? Won't the vines just grow back next year if the roots are still there?
The answer is yes. That's the short answer. The short answer is yes. The long answer is if you're stubborn, like I am, you can kill them by cutting them back multiple times. It depends on the vine as to how quickly this happens. And also depends on whether they spread on the ground. But what I can say is you can get them to leave the trees alone, or at least the tree that you are trying to protect alone. The key is protecting our trees until we can get a better solution, which we are working on. And the Park Authority is also working on. So, yes, but I think.
What are those better solutions?
What are those better solutions? I think we're talking about trying to get more contractor help, more management, but I'm not deep into the legislative aspect of things. That would be some of the other people that are involved in legislation. But I know that there's a lot of work that's going into that. And I know that there's some other thoughts among the IMA department, but I'm not privy to them as a volunteer.
Well, I mean, what do horticulturists say or whatever? I mean, are we eventually looking at just dousing with huge quantities of herbicide, or going in with the pickaxes to get the roots out, or what are we thinking as the long-term solution here? I mean, we can buy us some time. That's always a good thing, and obviously we want to kind of solve the problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think cut stump treatment of vines is not an unreasonable thing to consider when you have a large huge area, but it's not something that as volunteers we're allowed to do in the Park Authority right now.
Yeah, of course. No, I get that. Yeah. I mean, do what we can, but okay. So herbicides on the stumps is what they think is it's gonna
Well, I can't say what they think. That was my
okay.
view. I don't know if Margaret wants to chime in on this, but my feeling is that if we could do cut stump treatment of vines, it would be a big help. But we need to be able to do that. We have to have specifically trained people who would know what they're doing.
I have a comment on some of the questions. There's a lot of concern about whether what you are doing when you cut the vine from the tree is enough, considering it continues to be in the ground and will grow back. I find in so many of the parks that I'm working in that the ground cover is just so thick that you would spend a week on one small patch if you tried to get the entire understory. It really is, the way I look at it is, and I hate to use this pun, but it is triage. I mean, you're really going in and I want you to picture like an entire forest floor that's covered with English ivy and winter creeper. And you go up to these grand, beautiful trees. I'm thinking of Holmes Run 2 Trail, and they have vines on them that are maybe, like 3 or 4 inches in diameter. And when you're working with that, then you are doing more than just saving it for like a little. You are taking out it. I mean, that's years of growth that you're taking off of it. And yeah, you might have to go back to it in a year or two, but it's not going to be quite so devastating. Evergreen never quits. I mean, it's an evergreen, so it never quits, and it's weighing it down. And it's nothing more satisfying than cutting that, interrupting that vine. And no, the Park Authority doesn't come in after me, behind me, and paint it because they have 23,000 acres. They're never going to get to me. But I cut that out, and within a few months, you look up and it's all done, it's all dead and it's falling, it's desiccating and the tree can breathe again. And now it can photosynthesize. So it's not nothing. And since trees, looking at a watershed point of view, absorbed maybe, I think it was like 11,000 gallons of water in a single growing season, a good mature tree, that's high end real estate in the forest. You want to save those trees. I will say you also want to save the smaller trees because the deer browse and the forest floor being so compromised. When you do find those gems of those small trees, I also give them equal attention.
So just a couple of points with that. We've discovered through some of these, maybe by accident really, but multiflora rose, we've realized can die if it's a big enough, old enough vine and you cut it for the first time. Sometimes you need to cut back a few growths, but there have been some really big ones that have just not had the will to try again. I have documented one English ivy vine that threw up a few shoots and I cut them back and never came back again. I have found an Oriental bittersweet now vine at Pohick Stream Valley that was 6 inches wide and died from nothing that I can find around it. So I think that despite our feeling of being overwhelmed or that this is can be somewhat hopeless, we can continue to persevere. And in some cases, we are surprised by how old and how little of a will to live some of the bigger guys have, and that the little guys will keep trying, but they don't have as much, they still have a lot to grow to kill a tree. And we also have to think that the ones that have gotten big and are growing up, that's how they spread their seeds. So you're also stopping hundreds and hundreds of baby Oriental bittersweet from growing because they've got like a 95% germination rate, is my understanding. And you're stopping hundreds of English ivy berries from being digested by birds and having them apparently vomit and have diarrhea because that's how it decides to spread. And to me, it's a lot about just trying to preserve nature and slow the invasives down and not always eradicating. And that's just how I see it. But I do think it is worthwhile. And I think every tree saved is better than planting that a little baby tree. If you can save a canopy tree or even a tall sapling or even a small sapling, it's already there. It's doing its job and it's worthwhile.
So. Yeah, I will second what you say. It's not about, I mean, it is about how many trees we can as a collective get to. But it's also about, I mean, a single tree in one place that can support hundreds of different native caterpillars. So, that's a world in and of itself. So you have to recalibrate. We're all thinking globally. We already know about climate, but even if all of the laws and all the resources in the world existed, it would still boil down to each one of us doing our part. So that's how I look at it.